The final game before the World Cup, and Arsenal have ended with a bang as a Odegaard brace ensured that Arsenal will be top at Christmas. So from the performance of FABIO VIEIRA to the defensive excellence of GABRIEL and a potential title charge, let's break it all down and discuss the 5 things we learnt from Wolves 0, Arsenal 2. Yo, what is going on guys? My name is Babs14 and welcome back to your boys channel. Gargantuan dub at Molineux. Arsenal 3 points in the bag, top of the Premier League. We're shining, we're thriving. So my friends, if you enjoy the content, make sure to go down there to smash a like and also subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's try to get to 130k, but let's start off by giving some respect to Gabriel Magalhaes. This season Arsenal have been elite defensively, having conceded only 11 goals, the joint best record alongside Newcastle. We also have 7 clean sheets, again the joint best, and 6 out of 7 of those clean sheets have come all away from home, and that means that Arsenal have now kept as many clean sheets away from home as they did in the entirety of last season. But when you talk about the Arsenal defence, the spotlight is always on William Saliba, but I think it's about time Arsenal fans realise the importance of Gabriel Magalhaes. You see, people are always very quick to highlight any of his mistakes, but in these last few games, Gabriel has been colossal. In this game, a 7.4 rating, 1 clearance, 1 block shot, 2 interceptions, 1 tackle, 75 touches, 58 accurate passes, 90% passing accuracy, 5 out of 7 long balls, 2 ground duels and 1 aerial duel won. Arsenal play a very high line and the recovery pace of William Saliba is very important. But in this game, on quite a few occasions, just as Wolves tried to play balls in behind, enter the scene Gabriel Magalhaes making some very clutch interceptions. You have to appreciate that in a top centre-back partnership, you have to have balance. The importance of having an aggressive centre-back like Gabriel Magalhaes, who can win his headers, win his duels, it's a vital component on making a top defence, but also going forwards and on the ball, completing 90% of his passes. And when Arsenal try to sustain pressure, Gabriel is not scared to go forwards, get into the opposition half, and give Arsenal an extra option in the build-up. He can still sometimes be a little bit rash, but as Mikel Arteta further coaches him into a centre-back that can control his aggression, with Arsenal having the best defensive record in the Premier League, a lot of respect goes to Gabriel Magalhaes. Moving on to the second thing, patient possession. Now the first half in this game, it wasn't anything special. Arsenal had a majority of the ball, we're talking 70%, but there was no real punch. A lot of safe passing around the back, and Wolves had a very compact deep block, and they were cutting off all the passing lanes to get the ball into the Arsenal final third. And with the counter-attacking threats of Adama Traore and Gonzalo Guedes, parking the bus and counter-attacking made this a very dangerous game for Arsenal. And in that first half, Wolves had some moments. They could have had a penalty, but the Arsenal players didn't panic. They trusted their manager's plan, and with a very good half-time team talk, in the second half, Arsenal raised the tempo. And in terms of the expected goals, Wolves only 0.48, Arsenal 2.18, and the overall stats show dominance. 14 Arsenal shots, 62% of the ball, 524 passes completed, 61% in the field tilt, 87 final third entries, and a 2.9 expected threat created. And what you can see in the field tilt, for a large majority of this game, Arsenal had total control. And as Mikel Arteta says after the game, we showed another kind of maturity today to play their game. In the first 20-30 minutes, we struggled to break them down, but we were much better in the second half, and we had a bit more courage and took risks, but also not allowing them to run, and playing up against a 5 at the back with some good centre-back, some good organisation. In the second half, we saw rotations and it broke Wolves apart. And the prime example is the first Arsenal goal. Look at Gabriel Jesus, the Arsenal number 9, rotating with Gabriel Martinelli, playing as a left winger, cutting inside, finding a great run from FABIO VIEIRA. And the rest is Arsenal history. In these last 2 Arsenal away games, Stamford Bridge away, Molineux, 2 grounds that over the past few years Arsenal have always struggled at. To go there and control the games, to not panic if things aren't going your way, it's the sign of a team that is maturing and are understanding that with the quality they have, this Arsenal team will find a way. I also want to talk about the counter pressing in the second Arsenal goal. Once again, very patient passing around the pitch, but what this Arsenal team does so well is if they lose the ball in the final third, with the compactness and a structure of Mikel Arteta's tactics, Arsenal have a very effective counter press. And the prime example of that is the involvement of Gabriel Martinelli in the second goal, who wins the ball near the corner flag. The signs are very promising, and in this game, once again, the tactics of Mikel Arteta came through. Moving on to the third thing, Captain Fantastic Martin Odegaard. Now over the past few years, a massive criticism that people have had over Martin Odegaard is that he doesn't perform in tough away games. But in the last 2 games against Chelsea away and now Wolves away, I do believe that Odegaard has stepped up, and in this game he was the match winner. With 100% shot accuracy, completing 100% of his dribbles, 7 final third entries, 7 times possession won, 3 shots, 2 duels won, and 2 goals from a 1.17 xG. And the surprise stat of the day, with 6 goals, Odegaard is now Arsenal's top goal scorer in the Premier League. Now for our top goal scorer to only have 6 goals, some fans might see as worrying, but then you see Jesus and Martinelli at 5, Saka I believe has 4. We may not have Erling Haaland, but the tactics and system of Mikel Arteta create more than enough chances, and Arsenal are sharing the goals. But in terms of Martin Odegaard's performance, in the final third Odegaard keeps the ball ticking, little 1-2s is Saka and Ben White, and what that does is shifts open the opposition defence. But in terms of the goal scorer, it's now 6 league goals. The first goal is from the training ground. Fantastic move from FABIO VIEIRA, but the fact that we had both Odegaard and Saka in the exact same position, it's because that's the type of movement that Arsenal are practicing in training, and this time it was Odegaard taking profits. But in that second goal, we saw the ball striking of Martin Odegaard, something that I believe is very important for your top modern day attacking midfielder. In that occasion, it was a clean strike into the bottom left hand corner, and in the past we have seen this from Odegaard, but only in glimpses. And Odegaard is showing that he can shoot, but if he wants to reach the levels of a Kevin De Bruyne, this needs to become a more consistent thing. And as Odegaard says after the game, we had to dig deep today. The first half was difficult, they defended well. We were a bit slow, but we know the quality we have, and we always create chances. We stayed patient and it paid off. In many occasions in the second half, what you could see with Odegaard, as the captain he was leading, he was commanding, and on specific moments he was telling the Arsenal players to slow the game down. Because Arsenal are a very emotional team, they want to play aggressively, they want to make things happen. But to be a top team like a Man City, you have to learn how to control certain games. And in the second half, by getting the ball to Zinchenko and Partey, you can see that Partey is learning from Zinchenko and understanding when to quicken up the play and when to slow it down. Another example of his Arsenal team maturing. But often Odegaard does many things for this Arsenal team that I believe Arsenal fans underrate. And here you have a graphic of the most dangerous passes in the Premier League, the players that make the most expected threats, and Martin Odegaard is up there with the best. But then you also have Kevin De Bruyne in his very own category, and that is now the level for Martin Odegaard, that if Arsenal want to compete and win a Premier League title, we have to see Odegaard try to bridge that gap to Kevin De Bruyne. But talk to me about your thoughts on Martin Odegaard, and do you believe he was the Arsenal man of the match? Moving on to the fourth thing, and that is FABIO VIEIRA steps up. This game Arsenal of course started Granit Xhaka, but he only lasted 16 minutes. And as Arteta says after the game, we had a few players starting to feel sick just before the kickoff. We couldn't change everyone, but he could not carry on, and for him to not carry on is strange, but we adapted and we managed to win, and that's what big teams do. And maybe that explains the slow start that Arsenal had to the game, but in his absence it gave the perfect opportunity to FABIO VIEIRA. And in the first half, VIEIRA wasn't anything special. He definitely struggled to get in the game, and the thing about this Arsenal team is it's very automatic. The players know where to pass and when to pass. When you take an important player like Xhaka out of that team, it's very hard for a player like FABIO VIEIRA to fit in straight away. But in the second half, FABIO VIEIRA grew into the game, ranking as the highest player of the game in terms of goal probability added, and he was a major part in the first Arsenal goal. A fantastic run in behind, penetrating the Wolves deep block. But then it's all about the Laposa, the composure, to not panic and shoot straight away, but make a better chance and chip it to Martin Odegaard. That is FABIO VIEIRA's first assist in the Premier League this season, and that's what he's all about. And this is a guy that last year had the most assists in the Portuguese league, so it's a thing that FABIO VIEIRA definitely excels in. And also with the lack of pre-season and the form of Granit Xhaka, you can understand why FABIO VIEIRA has had a slower adaptation. But now in the second half of the season after the World Cup, with more time to train under Mikel Arteta, I believe VIEIRA alongside the returning Emil Smith-Rowe can play a massive part to helping the likes of Odegaard and Xhaka in the Arsenal midfield. But talk to me about your thoughts on FABIO VIEIRA's performance down below in the comments. Moving on to the fifth thing, the title charges on. It's time to have that conversation that Arsenal fans just don't want to have. Another match day passes by where Arsenal start and end it top of the Premier League. And today was gargantuan. Not only did Arsenal win, but there was a shock at the Etihad as Brentford beat Man City with a 98th minute Ivan Toney winner. And as the XG of that game shows, Brentford caused them issues with a 1.9 XG. And let's not forget, that is the same Brentford team that Arsenal went to their ground and comfortably beat 3-0. But with that result and the Arsenal victory, we have now moved 5 points clear top of the Premier League. And with the break for the World Cup arriving, Arsenal are now guaranteed to be top of the Premier League at Christmas for the first time since 2007-2008. And if I'm right in saying that's the same exact season, where in the second half Eduardo got injured, and I don't think Arsenal invested in January, and Arsenal saw a collapse. If anything, Arsenal can learn from that now, and understand that if they want to keep themselves top top of the Premier League, January investment is going to be massive. But as Pep Guardiola was asked and if Arsenal are the best team so far in the Premier League, he says yes, if you are first in the Premier League, it is because you are the best. Right now Arsenal are winning games and winning games sustainably, and with 37 points after 14 games, it's the joint third best start in Premier League history. All of the other teams that had this many points went on to win the Premier League title, and it also means that if Arsenal were to continue our current form, we are on track to finish exactly on 100 points. Crazy stats after crazy stats, and it looks like history is on Arsenal's side, but now it's all about the future. No more games until after Christmas and Boxing Day, West Ham United at the Emirates Stadium, and then soon after the opening of the January transfer window, and those transfers have to be serious. A lot of reports have claimed the owners have made funds available, but Arsenal have to identify the right players, because not only are January signings harder to make, but also in terms of adaptation, these players have no pre-season. So to go straight into a top team like Arsenal and fight for a title, it's going to be a tough ask. So now it falls to Edu Gaspar. Alongside Mikel Arteta, he has to identify the right players for Arsenal to sign and then be aggressive in the January transfer window and show the level of ambition. And if today shows anything, it's that Man City are not invincible. So if Arsenal can make the right signings in January and sustain the quality of the first team, then with all the history and stats taken into consideration, my friends, it's time to have the conversation. As it stands, Arsenal are factually in a title race. But are you starting to believe? Let me know down below in the comments. But that's the video there and there, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed, and if you have, make sure to go down there to smash a like and also subscribe if you are new. Make sure to follow your boy on all of the social medias, especially on the Instagram, as we're trying to get to 20k. But that was the 5 things we learned from Wolves 0, Arsenal 2, a gargantuan dub to end a fantastic first half of the season where Arsenal are still top of the Premier League. Is this going to be our year? We're going to have to wait and see. I'll see you next time. Keep smiling, keep safe, and in a bit.